The biblical book of Job, pronounced with a hard O sound, is immensely popular. One often quoted on solemn occasions, Job is rich in material for sick rooms and funeral homes. Job contains attempts to answer some of the oldest human questions. Why do good people experience bad things? Does human suffering have a purpose? Why would a good God permit evil? Nobody can argue that Job is irrelevant today. Job has relevance in any age, whenever people suffer or wonder about others' suffering. Some claim that Job is one of the oldest Old Testament books. Be that as it may, Job is certainly an ancient book. In the book, Job's suffering is brought about by a quarrel between God and Satan. God taunts Satan with Job's upstanding life. Satan's response is to accuse Job of serving God because of Job's terrific fortune. The devil tempts God, saying, "Touch all that he hath, and he will curse thee to thy face." In the book, God succumbs to the devil's temptation and gives Job over to his hand. God has but one initial condition: only upon himself put forth not thy hand. Subsequently, Satan kills Job's 10 children and robs him of all his wealth. After further temptation, God relents and gives Satan full power over Job, except to take the poor man's pathetic life. Interpreted literally, human suffering originates in a contest in which the devil asks God for more and more destructive power, which God grants because of his desire to best the devil in a contest over who is right about human allegiance. Numerous problems are raised by a too literal interpretation, however. The biggest problem in too literal an interpretation may be God's gullibility. An omniscient God would not need to ascertain Job's faithfulness through trial and testing. God seems all too human in the book because he is tempted by Satan and capitulates. Moreover, God is partnering with Satan to some extent by willfully giving him control he would otherwise not possess. Furthermore, suffering in our world is hardly unique to the righteous. All people, babies, children, adolescents, adults, and the elderly suffer. And suffering is ubiquitous among people, the good, the bad, and the ugly. The book of Job seems to only address the suffering of the righteous. Surely the answer to human suffering, universal human suffering, is somehow applicable to Job's case. If we could explain suffering in general, why would that be inapplicable to Job's suffering? Maybe even more troubling, if God is being constantly tempted in a face-to-face heavenly encounter with Satan, why does God keep the gamble going by giving in to temptation about each and every human being? And why does suffering recur even after individuals have proven themselves? In Job, he again becomes fabulously wealthy, has children, and lives happily ever after. That is hardly how human suffering works for the most part. We might all gladly suffer once if that one instance could end suffering permanently. Therefore, we should not be too tempted to strain every detail into a thoroughgoing explanation. Instead, we are given to know certain fundamental truths in a story-like form. We learn that God allows human suffering, but is not the direct cause. We learn that suffering is ubiquitous. Even people God loves experience evil things. We learn that God eventually rewards those whom he favors. We learn that human explanations for God's doings are incomplete and often simply wrong. People who cannot put a single star in the sky are poor arbiters between God and a suffering humanity. Perhaps Job's cry is humanity's best response to suffering. Though he slay me, yet will I trust in him. In the book's end, Job is reassured by God's omnipotence and omniscience. The powerful and loving God who gave us a world, sometimes a world of hurt, can make sense out of our lives and accomplish his will, even when it appears impossible from a mortal perspective. This book is literature's greatest historic masterpiece in explanation of human suffering, especially the undeserved suffering of upright people.